Hey guys, Dr. Ben here at the Functional Medicine Center. Welcome, and we're going to change things up a little bit today. So everybody's been talking about coronavirus, been talking about, oh my gosh, what's happening, how to get healthy, all these different things. And I'm going to jump off of that train for a little bit here because you know what? There's no amount of quarantine, there's no amount of virus scare, there's no amount of Facebook fear, all these things out there that's going to get you feeling better. If anything, a lot of people are probably feeling worse now than they were a month ago, just with the stress, with not sleeping as well, with dealing with life, and now your kids are home and your spouse is working out of the basement office, all these different things. We are just way more stressed. We're having way more issues and problems even than we were a month ago. So what does that mean? Well, I want to go over something today that we talk about all the time with patients, and is this really your thyroid? That's the problem. Are you tired because of your thyroid? Are you overweight because of your thyroid? Do you have brain fog because of your thyroid? All of these different issues, we've got to figure out what that true underlying imbalance is. And so what does that mean? We're going to explain in detail today exactly what systems can be out of balance and what can be off that's going to be contributing to these problems. So I'm going to come a little bit closer here. So I'm going to do some work on the whiteboard and show you guys exactly what's going on and where these problems are with your thyroid. And if it really is your thyroid, and if it's not your thyroid, what's actually going on. Because most people, they'll get online, look at websites, look at different things and say, oh my gosh, I'm tired, I cry easily, my hair's falling out, all these things. It's gotta be my thyroid. Your thyroid sits right here in your throat. It's a butterfly-shaped gland, and it is told what to do from the pituitary. That's the pituitary kicks out TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, tells your thyroid what to do, and then the thyroid is going to kick out what are called thyroid hormones, T3 and T4. So here is that drawn out, and we have the pituitary gland right here tells the thyroid what to do via TSH. So a lot of you may recognize TSH from your doctor's blood work, and they go, oh, your TSH is fine, so everything's okay. So TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, is not a thyroid hormone. And this is a really crucial part when we start thinking about, is it really your thyroid that's the problem? So TSH is a pituitary hormone that tells the thyroid what to do. So if we're going off of the pituitary to tell us whether the thyroid is working well or not, that's making a big assumption as to whether the thyroid's doing well or not. I always use the analogy, the pituitary also tells the female hormonal system what to do. It tells the estrogen and progesterone levels what to do. And that would be like looking at the LH and FSH to tell us how the estrogen and progesterone is doing. We would never do that. We would look at your estrogen and progesterone. Same thing with the thyroid. You've got to look at the T3 and T4, not just that TSH. So we have TSH, yes, it tells us some stuff, but it's by no means the full story. Then we look at the thyroid itself, and the thyroid kicks out T3 and T4, and those are different thyroid hormones. 93% of thyroid hormone that's excreted out of the thyroid is going to be T4, and 7% is T3. And that'll be important here in a second. So most of the thyroid produced is going to be T4. Some of it is going to be T3, so 93% versus 7%. What does that mean? Well, we're making most of our thyroid as T4, but they call T3 the good, usable, active form. Hey, Carol, Great question there. I'll get back to that in a second. So T3 is the good, usable, active form, but we're only making 7%. And what that means is that we need to convert at some point T4 to T3 to be able to utilize that thyroid hormone. So I'm going to jump back to TSH there. Thanks for the question, Carol. If anybody has any questions at all, this is a live Q&A as well, so go ahead and put those questions down below. Like or share this with anybody that you know that's dealing with thyroid issues. I love to educate, love to communicate. So remember, TSH is thyroid stimulating hormone. So why do most doctors only look at TSH? Because most doctors are only going to be prescribing a medication. And that medication, the #1 best-selling drug in this country is what? Any guesses? Synthroid. Synthroid, the synthetic thyroid hormone, is the #1 best-selling drug in this country. And what that means is over 20 million people are going to be dealing with these thyroid issues and taking Synthroid, but they're not getting to the underlying why. And that's the biggest problem that we have, is that no one is getting to that underlying why of why the body is out of balance, why it's not working as well as it should. And so what does that mean? Well, if somebody just looks at TSH, they're going to adjust their thyroid medication up or down based off of what they think is going on in a feedback loop, not the actual levels of T3 and T4. And I've heard multiple patients come back and say, oh, my doctor said we don't even look at that T3 and T4 anymore, we just go off of TSH. Again, that would be like if you were prescribing estrogen and progesterone based off of somebody's pituitary hormone telling the female organs what to do with those hormones. So most doctors, unfortunately, they're not going to be looking for anything else. Carol, thanks for that question. And they're just not going to be digging any deeper into that, because again, over probably 70 to 80% of the population that have thyroid issues have Hashimoto's, which is actually autoimmune. But they're not going to do anything different even if you do have Hashimoto's, and they're not going to address that underlying why. They're just going to go about, keep prescribing the medication. Oh, you need more, you need less, and just adjust it based off of what the TSH is doing. So pituitary tells the thyroid what to do. Thyroid kicks out T3 and T4. 93% of the thyroid hormone produced is T4, 7% is T3. So what does that mean? Well, at some point, we have to convert T4 over to T3. And T3 is that good of thyroid. And basically what we have going on here is we've got to be able to get this conversion going as well as it should. That's going to take place in the liver, and that's going to take place in the gut. About 80% of this conversion takes place in those two places, in the liver and the gut. Carol, great question. I was just getting to that. What is thyroglobulin? So we've got to transport this T3 and T4, and that's in this bus. I'm not an artist, if you guys couldn't guess. So thyroglobulin is this hormone that T3 and T4 jump on, just like your kids are going to summer camp. They're going to get on that bus and get transported around the body. So thyroglobulin is that transporting system, and that's going to take thyroid hormone around the body. It's going to go to places like the liver and the gut, and it's also going to take it to the cells. And then ultimately, that feedback comes all the way back around to the pituitary, and it says, do we need more or less? So thyroglobulin is going to be this transportation mechanism, and it's going to get the thyroid hormone around the body. It's going to go to the cells, it's going to go to the liver and the gut, and we're going to convert T4 to T3. So as we convert that T4 to T3, that's when the body really needs thyroid hormone. It says, great, we've got all this T4 sitting there, let's convert it to T3. And so then we have active, usable T3 floating around the body. Then we get ultimately to the cell and the feedback, do we need more or less? And so that's where the TSH goes up and we get all those different things happening. So the thyroglobulin is the transportation part of this system. So the two main things that we see that tell us it's not really the thyroid gland that's the problem, number one is going to be what's called Hashimoto's. And Hashimoto, some of you may have heard of that, but not quite sure what it is. Most doctors do not test for Hashimoto's. And the reason is, this is autoimmune to the thyroid and to the thyroglobulin. Hashimoto's is not going to change their treatment. They are still going to do what? They're still going to give out Synthroid, levothyroxine, any of the medications. And they're not going to do anything different. Why? Because what's the standard treatment in the medical model for autoimmune? Prednisone, methotrexate, low-dose chemo, Humira, $10,000 a month Humira, all these drugs, the cure is worse than the disease. So people are not going to be prescribing the traditional autoimmune drugs for Hashimoto, so it doesn't matter. All they do, they'll check your TSH and see where it is, and then they'll adjust your T4, which is your Synthroid, is going to be T4 coming in. They're going to adjust that based off of what they see. Carol, you said if your thyroglobulin level is really low, let's say 1.0, what is possibly happening? Go ahead and respond to that. Was it the thyroglobulin antibodies or just the thyroglobulin itself? So go ahead and let me know on that one, and I'll answer your question. So Hashimoto's, we have two things that take place here. One, we are going to attack the TPO, and two, we're going to attack thyroglobulin. And so TPO means we're attacking the thyroid. Thyroglobulin means we're attacking the transportation part of this. So what happens, so in today's day and age, this is going to make a little bit more sense. So let's say there's a virus going around the world, and that virus is going to come into somebody's body, and the immune system is going to get revved up. We create antibodies, and the antibodies tag that virus for destruction. The immune system comes in and destroys it, and now we've got antibodies. And this is going to be a big part of what's going to happen over the next 6 to 18 months for the whole world. Is we're all going to need to get antibodies to the coronavirus. And that's one of the things that it'll be exciting to see when the tests come out to actually test the antibodies. Then people can tell if they were one of those 80% of the population that had either no symptoms or mild symptoms, and they may already be immune to the coronavirus, and they don't have to go through getting sick, because 80% of the population, the World Health Organization says, probably will have no symptoms or mild symptoms. So hopefully, keep your fingers crossed, you're one of those, but the healthier your body, falling into one of those categories. So the antibodies are going to rev up. They're going to target the virus or whatever it is for destruction. The immune system comes in, destroys that, and then we move on and we're good to go. So hopefully with the coronavirus, these antibodies are going to be lifelong. So for those of you older than 35, you probably had chickenpox. You'll never have chickenpox again because your body created these antibodies. But what could also happen that we don't know yet is the coronavirus could actually be a seasonal or an annual thing where the antibodies only last about 6-8 months and then it starts falling down. Then we have to deal with this every year. So keep your fingers crossed that we create permanent immunity and it's not just a seasonal thing and then we have to deal with this every year. So those antibodies are actually going to tag the thyroid, and they're going to tag thyroglobulin in Hashimoto. So you can have one or both of those, and if they're positive, you have Hashimoto's. So this is why I say, is it really your thyroid gland? Because if somebody has Hashimoto's, it's not a thyroid disorder. It's an autoimmune disorder that's attacking the thyroid. Just like rheumatoid arthritis is not a joint disorder, joint disease, it's an autoimmune disease. And we've got to downregulate that autoimmune reaction, not just give somebody glucosamine chondroitin and go, oh, your joint's going to be fine. That'd be silly. But that's what happens with Hashimoto's is we go, oh, it's an autoimmune disease, but screw it. We're just going to give you some synthetic thyroid and hope that your autoimmune stops itself miraculously. Does anybody do that with MS? Does anybody do that with lupus? Does anybody do that with RA? No, it's ludicrous. And yet that is the model. So we've got to come in from this perspective of let's fix what is out of balance and stop this whole autoimmune flare from going on. Carol, you had said thyroid antibodies. So what happens if the thyroid antibodies are low? That's fine. We want the antibodies to be low because if the antibodies are high, that means we're creating these flags here and we're targeting our own tissue for destruction. So it's actually good that your antibody is low and we are going to be fine there. And Kuyo, thank you very much to you as well. So thanks for being on and let us know if you have any questions there. So Hashimoto's, Dr. Hashimoto found this back in Japan in the early 1900s, and it's this autoimmune reaction. So if somebody has those antibodies, I just found a male yesterday, 52 years old, come in for chronic joint pain, muscle pain, C-reactive protein is inflammatory markers through the roof, and we also found Hashimoto's. I didn't expect it, but we run it on everybody, and guess what? His body has an autoimmune disease. If you have one autoimmune disease, how many do you probably have? We probably have multiple. And that's what the research shows. Well over 50% of the people that have one autoimmune condition have multiple. So what do we have to do? We've got to calm down that immune response because there's a very good chance if your body is attacking itself, it's going to be attacking multiple areas. So we've got to calm this down. We've got to get it into a good state so that it can come back down to normal. So the biggest thing that we see that tells us it's not just the thyroid that's out of balance, it's going to be that it's Hashimoto's, and we've got to figure that out, and then we've got to calm down the whole autoimmune inflammatory cascade. So Catrice, what ways can you lower your PTH levels without Synsulet? Let me jump on that one in a little bit here. I'll finish up on the thyroid side, but we'll jump on that, and then I might even direct message you. That's a little bit outside of the realm of this conversation, but I might even direct message you on some thoughts on that one as well. So, number one thing that we see that is not the thyroid, but people may be having thyroid symptoms is because it's Hashimoto's, it's autoimmune, that immune system is revved up, it's attacking its own tissue, and that is the biggest problem that we're seeing. It's not that it's a thyroid problem, the thyroid may actually be doing okay, and if it wasn't being beat on, it'd be fine. And some people, they don't even have TPO antibodies, but they've got thyroglobulin antibodies. So they may be producing plenty of T3 and T4, but they're not even getting it transported around the body. So everybody loads up to the bus, they got their backpacks on, and they're all ready for summer camp, and guess what? They're not going to be able to make it to camp because that bus is broken down. So we'll see this all the time where people have plenty of T3 and T4, and yet they have thyroglobulin antibodies, and so they are not able to transport their thyroid hormone. Doesn't matter how much you take in from the outside, you are not going to get the thyroid hormones to the cells, to the liver, to the gut, to conversion, all of those things. It's just not going to happen. There's a trickle, but it's not going to be enough for you to function optimally, and you're going to feel hypothyroid, and you're going to feel these symptoms, but your thyroid is actually fine. And that's what we've got to figure out. That's what we've got to change. How do we improve this body? How do we get it going? And that's that whole model that we look at with functional medicine is we've got to fix what we find. If you go into somebody's office and you talk to them and they say, hey, I've got the awesome, perfect, best Hashimoto's protocol ever, get up and walk out. I've told this to people for years. Get up and walk out, because there is no Hashimoto's protocol. There is no MS protocol. I talked to a patient today. Her ANA, her antibodies were high, possibly lupus. She's having tingling, some other things. And she was almost in tears. What is it? What do I have? And I'm like, you know what? I don't know. And we could spend hundreds and thousands of dollars more to figure it out, but it's not going to matter, because our treatment is going to be the same whether you're diagnosed with something or not. Not that we're going to treat everybody the same, but we're going to treat her the same, because her systems are out of balance, and we've got to get that body working better. Whatever is out of balance, we're going to fix. I don't care what the diagnosis is. Sure, there's certain things that we do for certain people if they have more of a gut ulcerative colitis or Crohn's or things like that. But long term, we've got to go through and fix what we find, system by system by system, going through there. Carol, what does standard range mean when you receive test results? Great question there, Carol. I'm going to draw this one right over here, see if we can make a bell curve. So a bell curve is going to be, in statistics, they talk about 90% of the population, and that's what a lab range or a reference range is. So vitamin D is an easy one to look at. Most labs are about 30 to 100, but some labs, like in Colorado here, Banner and Kaiser, they're down at 22 and 24, so they're actually lower. Vibrant, one of the labs we use, 108 is their upper end. So there's no straight value that the American Heart Association or the CDC or anybody like that says this is where it needs to be. It's going off of averages. So what we look at is the functional medicine range, which is more narrowed through there for what they've found healthy people should be. And so 60 to 80 is going to be where your vitamin D should be. If somebody has Hashimoto's, if somebody has an autoimmune condition, you need to be up at 80. You need to be up at that upper level at least, if not even up closer to 90. And that's going to help modulate that immune response. So we've got to be able to figure out not just going off of their level, and then your doctor says, oh, everything's fine, everything's in the okay range. Hey Denise, hope you're well. But we've got to come in from that place of where is it in that functional medicine range? Where is it in that healthy range? And then from there, we're going to be able to tell for sure what somebody has going on. So let's recap here for everybody just jumping back on. We've got the thyroid gland in the throat here is stimulated to do something by the pituitary via TSH. We already had a question, why do some doctors just test TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone? Because that's all they're going to go off of. They don't really care what the T3, T4 is. They're assuming that the whole feedback loop back to the pituitary is working like it should. And if it's not, then that TSH is going to be high or low for various other reasons. And so it's very hard to just prescribe medication based off of TSH. It's like you're chasing the tail instead of grabbing the collar and being like, okay, come here, dog, we gotta take care of this. So then the thyroid kicks out the T3 and the T4, and most of that is T4, 93%, 7% is the T3. We get on the bus, the thyroglobulin, that gets transported around the body to the cells, to the liver, the gut, where we convert T4 to T3. We get feedback to the pituitary. Do we need more or less? Number one thing that we see that is not a thyroid problem, but people are having thyroid symptoms, is Hashimoto's. Hashimoto's is not a thyroid disease, and yet it's going to show itself a lot of times as thyroid symptoms. That's autoimmune to the thyroid itself and to the bus that's transporting those around. You can have one or both of those. So not everybody that comes in, the guy yesterday, he only had the thyroid one, not the bus one. So he's transporting. Somebody may only have the transportation one and not the thyroid one, and they're not able to get this around the body like they need to. Okay, number two thing that is going on that is probably going to be affecting you and having thyroid symptoms, not Hashimoto's, it's going to be under conversion right here. So like I've said, we have to convert T4 to T3 because 93% of the thyroid hormone that's produced is T4. We can convert a whole lot faster than make it out of the thyroid gland here. So that we need T3 at an optimal level, but T4 is needing to be converted over to that. 60% of that's in the liver, 20% is in the gut. We've got to have this conversion and get that T3 where it needs to be. So one of the things I see all the time is we have excess T4 or T4 up at the higher level, and we have low T3. So think about this. Synthroid is T4. Synthroid is going to be T4 hormone, and we still have to convert it into T3. Okay, well, great. So now we just load you up on a whole bunch of T4, and you're still not converting it over. So I call this the beaver dam. So we've got this beaver dam, water's building up behind it, and we've got this little trickle of T3 coming out underneath, but we're not fixing the beaver dam itself. And that's where we've got to get into the liver, we've got to get in the gut. There's a whole nother conversation on what to do for those things, but that's a huge part of this functional medicine process, is to fix those two systems. Almost every single person has some damage, has some degeneration, has some problems in there. So this underconversion is one of the biggest things. It's our number 2 thing that we see why people will have low thyroid symptoms, but their thyroid may actually be working perfectly. And so it's not a thyroid gland issue, it's a conversion issue. And you'll see that if your T4 is at the upper end and your T3 is at the lower end. I had a lady we started with up in Laramie last month. She's already down 10 pounds, and I saw her a couple weeks ago, and she said, oh my gosh, I'm doing so much better, I'm feeling better. And I said, did you think at all when we sat down a month ago that you'd be sitting here saying, oh, I'm down 10 pounds? And she's like, no, I didn't believe it at all. I was just hoping that we could make some of these changes, but it worked. And you know what? I had my crystal ball out too, because I told her that you're going to actually lower your amount of T4 that you're going to have to be taking in the next month or 2. How did I know that? Because her T4 was really high, her T3 was low, and I knew as we went through the process that we're going to be going through with her for the next 3 months or so, her amount of T4 is going to go down because she's going to be converting way better. So that beaver dam starts going down. We don't need as much water coming in to get that little trickle coming out. So she's already on the verge of lowering down her thyroid medication because she doesn't need as much of that. So top 2 reasons why we have thyroid problems, but it's not really our thyroid. Number 1, Hashimoto's. You're attacking your thyroid, you're attacking your bus. Number 2, you're under-converting. And here's the deal. If somebody's only testing TSH, Carol, just like you asked, then you're gonna have no idea if you're under-converting. If no one's testing for these Hashimoto's antibodies, you're gonna have no idea if you have Hashimoto's, and you're just gonna go off of, oh hey, I need more or less Synthroid, more or less levothyroxine. If you're a little bit out there, you're gonna do some Armour, Naturethyroid, Westthyroid, some pig thyroid. So none of those things are gonna fix it. We've got to take a step back, go to this underlying fix, change what's out of balance there, and make the fixes that we need in the body. And that's what functional medicine is. That's why we've got to fix what we find, no matter where somebody is at. We start with them there, and I take them step by step through that process. Blood sugar and liver and gut and infection and chronic this and chronic that. All these different things. So, Carol, can I help you? I would sure hope that I could help you. We help people every single day. The number 1 step place that we go is to first thing, get a good feel for whether I can help somebody. If I can, great. I can accept them as a patient. If I don't think I can, then we're going to rule them out and be like, you know what, you're not the right fit for our practice, and we don't take everybody in that wants to come into the office. Not everybody is ready. Not everybody is the type of case that we're going to be able to help. So first thing for me is to know, can I help somebody? And then from there, we've got to go through and fix system by system by system. So if anybody has any questions or wants to direct message me, go ahead and shoot me a message through this Functional Medicine Facebook app. Otherwise, you can call the office at 970-282-1173. If you've got any questions, we're doing complimentary consultations right now, especially in this time of need. Our office is open every single day. People are coming in, people are getting healthy. We have to get people healthier. That is going to be way better to fight off this virus or anything else out there. So our office is open, we're helping people, we're sanitizing, we're staying clear, but ultimately we've got to keep people as healthy as possible so that they can fight off all of this yucky stuff that's coming at them. We're all going to get the virus at some point. Are you going to be healthy? Are you going to be strong? Are you going to be able to fight it off? That's what I'm here for. So if you've got any questions, any comments, like or share this with anybody that you know is dealing with thyroid, and make it a great day. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you guys soon. Take care.